certain guys, it's got to be quite a struggle, especially in the NIL age of you can make a little bit of money and stick around and have fun with your buddies and, your college years and all of that. And then there is the pull, I'm sure, for many of the NFL and that money and going and playing pro ball and doing that. So it's always interesting to kind of see where it all falls in the wash as far as, guys coming back or not. But, good for him and good for Georgia.
We're back. On the screen?
I'm
okay,
going to
good.
email you
I
the
want to make
link
sure.
so it goes right to you.
Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak. We're back in. We had a little technical glitch, and Jack and Paul and Garrett getting as much done as we possibly can. Also, I saw this note. C.J. Donaldson, who was having a heck of a year for West Virginia, has decided to come back for another year with the Mountaineers at running back, and that's obviously great news for West Virginia and Neil Brown.
Yeah, he missed a ton of time because he had a concussion this year, and so glad he's back for them. He was fun to watch when he did play. Big, gigantic running back, moved over from tight end. Really a nice bit of news for the poor Mountaineers who've had nothing, but they're one of the ones that have some sad news. And I wouldn't call their offseason tumultuous, like I didn't put them on that list yesterday because, everything that's kind of happened is expected. That kind of, just kind of navigating through, okay, Neil Brown's staying, so that doesn't change anything. The coordinators leave here and there. That's not really that big of a deal. It's not like Michigan where they, might get arrested, kind of a thing. So, but, Neil Brown has got to do a little bit more than tread water if he wants to keep a job because they do have a new AD, Ren Baker, who we had on the show. I don't think Ren, goes in there wanting to fire the football coach, but if he's not good, you can't tie your fortunes to the guy who wasn't the one you hired.
Well, Ren Baker told us earlier in the week he has a lot of respect for Neil Brown, and I think that I think he's happy, as he said, didn't he? That decision had already been made even before he arrived, so it's not like the new guy who comes in starting to just slice and dice like you're in the forest or whatever you might be.
Yeah, I think it's great that, he didn't have to be in charge of that decision because that kind of sets the mood and the tone for the rest of the year. And so he gets to, just keep his hands off that for the time being. And any complaints or angst about, why Neil Brown's still there or not is, not going to be directed immediately at him. So he gets to avoid that, and I think that's the smart play or was the smart play, and that's good for Ren Baker, too, to kind of get his teeth sunk into the whole situation there before, making too many big decisions. But I'm putting Neil Brown at like 1A, 1B, 1C, whatever you want to call it on the hot seat rankings. I think that because of a new AD, that just makes me think even more so that he could be very well on his way out. Not to mention the fact that before Ren Baker was even a thought in anybody's mind, before the AD movement even occurred, this was already a talking point. We were already talking about him on the hot seat. It's not like they closed their season on some like super high note. And so, yeah, I think you're absolutely on hot seat watch. Probably one of the most keyed in on spots as it stands right now, heading into the next season there in Morgantown. So, I like Neil Brown. A lot of people do. Most people do, it seems like. The nice guy and everything like that. But I just see far too many complaints from West Virginia fans who just it doesn't give me good feelings that like he's going to turn this around and have a great year, and then he and Ren Baker are going to be off to the races together. I get the opposite feeling, but I'd be happy to be wrong in this regard because I'm certainly not rooting for anybody to be fired, but that just feels the kind of direction it's going if they don't have just some monster year. Now, to do that, having C.J. Donaldson is certainly going to help matters.
Absolutely.
That's going to help a lot. He's a great player when he's healthy. As y'all mentioned, he missed a good bit of time because of injury, concussion. But he also had nearly a handful of 100-yard games and was definitely a size issue for some teams to try to bring him down. And yeah, I think he's a bright spot for them, no doubt, going into the next year. So that's great news for Neil Brown.
Well, and again, he wasn't. I don't think he was expected to be their starting running back. Mathis, I believe, who ended up beating the leading rusher by not much over Donaldson, not nearly the average yards per carry, that Mathis was going to be the dog. And a lot of West Virginia fans who watch us, so let us know, in fact, if we're wrong. By the way, Bobby B., I was saying this, and then pop, we were gone for a second. Thank you for the super chat of nearly $20.
Oh, wow.
We absolutely appreciate you for that. I got a text I want to read. Remember yesterday? Go ahead.
I just want to say on Donaldson, yeah, he came in as a tight end.
Yes.
He moved the running back in preseason, so yeah, like they weren't necessarily like there's a starting running back when they got him, but there he was as a freshman, and obviously impressive in the bits that we saw him. So yeah, again, that's big news.
770. Yesterday, remember we were mentioning who was it that was with the Saints that was
Cam Jordan.
Cam Jordan, thank you, Garrett, who was fined for allegedly faking an injury. Listen to the 770. First of all, I live in Atlanta. Have enjoyed your show the past couple of years. I'll listen after you put up shows on Google Podcasts. We appreciate you doing for that. I'm listening to yesterday's show. I think I have a viable answer to faking injuries in the NFL and college football. Rather than trying to find players in the NFL, which I don't think will ever be successful, I'd make an injured player where an official timeout has to be called, sit out for the next 2 or 3 plays, or maybe even until the offensive series is over and the ball changes possession. For the NFL, they could partly justify it by saying they're looking out for the player's safety, and this being enacted because they're talking or taking an abundance of caution for player safety.
I do think that until the series is over is probably a little too long, given what you may have on the roster and the way that 53 and 48 active and all that gets played every week. I don't think that would go, but I do think more than one play would make sense, because then that would certainly, if you were going to fake an injury, you'd really have to pick who you wanted to fake it. You'd really have to plan that out. So again, say Cam Jordan wasn't faking this injury and the next down was going to be a for sure passing down. Well, you want your best pass rusher on the field. So how do you plan out situation by situation? It seems like a lot for teams to have to do now, because if you have 2 downs where you want your best pass rusher, well, it can't be him. So then you have to be like, other guy, you're the
Players
one.
Association would never.
Exactly.
It's a great idea. I think it's an idea to maybe curtail it, cut it down, but the Players Association might want to say no. That's too penal.
And I think it's far too subjective.
Yeah.
You have suddenly player decisions being made by officials.
Yeah.
I don't think we want to do that. But I mean,
they have enough judgment right now. Yeah.
Not great judgment a lot of the time. So yeah, I mean, that just to me opens the floodgates for some dirty stuff to go on. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I feel like there could just be too many issues with that. I like the idea though of having some sort of punishment that's not some grand thing, but just a minor in-game deal that probably nobody would even really notice all that often. But it's just the thing is just in the game of football, somebody's going to find a way to abuse whatever they can. And so that rule in particular, that suggestion, I think that there would be some abuse of that. But I do like where your head's at as far as trying to curtail it a little bit. I think that's a good little space to start off in is what you suggested.
All right. Again, we appreciate you, those of you coming back and joining us today. And we were out for just a little bit. Now, from the 858, and this has to do, obviously, Kendal, Briles, TCU, or others, nobody in any way affiliated with Baylor University, whether it's internally, alumni, or media, has any right to point the morality finger at TCU or anyone else, the Board of Regents included. As a graduate of Baylor, having numerous family and friends that are as well, I am the first in line to share that Baylor has as many skeletons and scandals in our history as anybody. Fortunately, we have been forgiven for most of it. Who are we or any of us to point fingers? Ever cheat on your taxes? Ever have a player on your basketball team kill another player? Ever have a player rape a co-ed? Ever abuse drugs or have an addiction? Forgiveness applies to all. I said that yesterday. Why should we be forgiven if we cannot forgive and move on with others, including Kendal? Briles is a forgiven man.
There was a lot to unpack there, and I don't think that's very fair that you can't say anything. I didn't have anything to do with. I don't agree with that at all. I feel like that's just nobody can say anything about anything because we all screw up. And I know I'm probably simplifying that too much, but I think that there's a very broad brush being painted by that person of just nobody who had anything to do with anything involving anything to do with anything can say anything about this because they're hip. I think that that's BS. I'm sorry, I do. And like I said earlier, my complaint with, and it's not even a complaint, my deal with the Kendal Briles thing is just simply the hypocrisy of it, like I said. So you're not even talking to me. But I also think that you're probably talking to far too many people. I don't know. That was a lot to digest.
Paul?
There.
Yeah, especially.
Well, is the point more towards Baylor's fan base And again, we've brought up hypocrisy, and nobody's going to deny that. No TCU fan will deny it. No, Brian Estridge has even said it himself, the voice of TCU.
Yeah, but see, I don't think most of the stuff I've heard, criticizing the Kendal Briles hire is coming from TCU, not from Baylor.
No, TCU fans are very much.
So Baylor fans haven't really said a word about it. I think
there's been.
But the argument is that they caught so much crap just years ago over these same people that are now it's okay though because you're doing it, and that's where I think that those complaints are coming from is like we caught all this crap, and look, there is an argument for that. Is like kind of like 7 years ago, whatever, when I was on a local radio saying like this was a systemic thing and this was a school thing, and nobody wanted to hear that.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted it. They wanted to know it was Art Briles. It was Art Briles. It was Art Briles. And we're like, yeah, but maybe it was a combination. No. Rape apologist, rape enabler, rape. Yeah. And you couldn't say anything. And now here we are. And this was so predictable. And so, again, my comment, I can't speak for everybody else, but you're not going to muzzle me on saying that I think it's hypocritical in some ways, because it is. It's absolutely hypocritical. But as far as the rest of it goes, you can go talk to whoever that is you're aiming that at, because it ain't at me.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning of the show, my point about that was, look, you can call out Baylor if you're TCU. You can call out TCU if you're Baylor. But if you want to get into the finger-pointing game about anything at all, and you're a fan of anywhere, your school is going to have a situation, and I promise you, for the most part, they didn't handle it right. Michigan State had a doctor there for 35 years.
Sandusky at
Larry
Penn
Nassar.
Yeah.
Sandusky. There's all these things, systemic issues that universities have. And the way that all that works, that if you've convinced yourself that your team is the good guys, good for you. But the reality of it is that everything is different than you probably imagine. And there's things you don't know and may never know or don't want to know, but every school has problems. Every school will have periods where they don't handle them well. It depends on the administration of those schools. And what you have to hope for is that you get a fairly sustained period of a president, athletic director, and coaches who deal with things well. And however long that lasts, it lasts, but nobody's perfect and nobody has done this right. And the ones that you say, well, I never hear about this, that's either because they're doing it right or because they're really good at not letting you know about it.
Let me tell you something. I think when all hell started breaking loose in 2015 into 16, I bet every single university athletic director started texting various people, hey, are we doing this right? Is this us? Could this be us? And now, whether or not they reacted to it or not, but I bet there was a little bit of that. Oh, my God, do we have anything in our system that's going to come back to haunt us? And I would think there's probably in every system there was probably some sort of if you take the tweezers and a needle in a haystack and you find the needle, I bet everybody, not everybody, some that do it right. But I'm sure there were some ADs that started to wonder, oh, my God, could this be us?
You sent me to 3 different things regarding in the NFL and 2 in college, symposiums on this thing. Press conference when we were at the Super Bowl, and then other Big 12 things. And the Big 12 symposium wasn't even people from the Big 12. It was people from outside the Big 12 talking about the issue as a whole. One of them was Ray Rice, for crying out loud. Mm-hmm. They had him there because he was now supposedly working on the rebuild, like how do you rehabilitate once you've done this kind of a thing. And again, that all remains to be seen about how you live your life post-incident. But one of the things that, 2 different university presidents said at these things was, look, what happened at Baylor, what's happening, and they mentioned other places, Michigan State, whatever, they mentioned Penn State. It's like, look, there are things like this that are happening everywhere, and universities are totally ill-equipped to deal with it, so they don't. They find ways to shuffle through and get it lost in the shuffle. And then when they've been pressed to because of changing of laws, expansion of Title IX, they've just done it to hit it's like they have a checklist. Do we do this, this, and this? But once you hit the checklist, you don't look any further past that, and that's where a problem lies. It's a huge, deep issue. Like I said, you can revel in taking pleasure in your rival having a scandal, but you're gonna have one at your place. You're just gonna.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really have much more to say because I feel like that there's also an argument that there's this fallacy that, like, if you ever did anything wrong, you're not allowed to say anything about anybody ever doing anything wrong, and I think that's total BS. I think that, you also wanted the whole forgiveness thing. I think that that's used in a BS way a lot of times as well. But that's another argument. But, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of hypocrisy going on, and I think that that's, kind of where I started, and that's where I'll end it, because all the rest of that's a completely different conversation.
All right, we have more to go and get to at 4:45. This is 365 Sports. We have heard from Dennis Dodd from CBS Sports that depending on Texas and Oklahoma, and if, in fact, they do leave at the end of this year or whenever they do, we knew there was going to be money. We knew there were going to be exit fees. We knew there was going to be penalties. It all just depends on the timeline. The number has been up there to $160 million or more, about 80-something million for each school, and it could be higher. But what he was saying is whatever that number is, that number will be redistributed back into the 8 teams in the Big 12 who are a part of the Big 12 and have been. The incoming 4 are getting about $16 million a year based on the 8 schools other than Texas and Oklahoma agreeing to give up about 40% of some of the television revenue to give them something to have when they come in. And when the new grant of rights or the new TV deal starts in 2 years, everybody will have equal shares. The 12 teams other than Texas and Oklahoma, they'll be gone.
Yep.
All right, this is 365 Sports. Petty.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, and North 19th Street. I'm sorry, Smokey, that's my fault. I forgot to tell you something. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, and North 19th Street, a hidden gem. Look, it's the weekend. It's Friday. If you are, looking to, you're going to a party, if you're trying to buy a gift for somebody for something, a housewarming or whatever's going on, that's a great place to go. If they're a fan of local craft bourbons, and when I say local, I mean Texas, they've got them there. TX, Devil's River, Garrison Brothers, Balcones, and all the varieties there within, they've got them. They've got great craft beer. They've got great everything at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Happy Dad Hard Seltzer going on right now. That's a very popular brand. They had a display, although that was a couple days ago, and that stuff tends to move pretty quick, so that might be on the way out the door. At Riverbend Liquor and Wine. They're great at everything they do, everything they try. In fact, they're expanding locations here in a little bit, and that's very exciting for them as well. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. Find them on DoorDash as well.
Kick off 2023 with a bang at the Start Something New sales event. Start your year off with incredible savings like 2.9% for 72 months on 2022 Ram 1500 crew cabs on all trim levels. Lone Stars, Laramies, and top-of-the-line Longhorn and Longhorn Limited, or get values up to $3,750 on a Ram 1500 Lone Star crew cab, plus 4.9% for 72 months. Pick from the best selection of Ram trucks in Central Texas at Allen Samuels in Waco.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry, and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, we mentioned the story earlier, which is it's kind of like currently in breaking news involving the Pac-12 conference. And the Pac-12, John Wilner had this from the San Jose Mercury News. Pac-12 fires 2 senior executives for failing to report overpayments by media distribution partner. Paul mentioned some of it, that there was an overpayment. There were people that kept the money. And here's what their statement is. The timeline of events, and Paul, I'll read one, you read every other one so we don't ramble too much. And Craig, if you want to, that's fine too. In the spring of 2017, Pac-12 networks engaged in the industry-leading auditor to conduct an audit of certain distribution partner payments. Let me go through a couple of them. The audit concluded that one of the Pac-12 distribution partners overpaid the Pac-12 networks for the year 2016 by a material amount. The 2 Pac-12 executives whose employment were terminated today were made aware of the audit results in the late part of December of 2017.
So after receiving the audit results, the 2 executives failed to inform the Pac-12 Board of Directors or the Pac-12's external auditors of the financial risk associated with the audit findings. And since 2017, the 2 executives have not shared this ongoing financial risk associated with the apparent overpayment with either the Pac-12 Board of Directors or the Pac-12's external auditors. And in October of 2022, the distribution partner who was subject of the 2017 audit claimed that it had been overpaying the Pac-12 each year since prior to 2016, and the distribution partner claims that the overpayments total more than $50 million.
As soon as the distribution partner notified the Pac-12 began looking into the claims, determined the Pac-12 should bring an independent legal counsel to review the facts of the situation. They did. They hired a Cooley LLP. In November 2022, the commissioner briefed the Pac-12 Board of Directors on the distribution partner's claim and the investigation being conducted by Cooley. Cooley concluded its investigation earlier this month, briefed the commissioner on its finding. 2 current senior Pac-12 executives were aware of an overpayment from a distribution partner since 2017. These executives failed in their obligations and duties to immediately disclose this information related to an immediate and material financial risk to the conference, Pac-12 Board of Directors, and Pac-12's external auditors, and they failed in their ongoing obligation and duty to disclose the information to the Pac-12's board of directors, the Pac-12's external auditors. So the bottom line is they were keeping the money and didn't tell anybody about it.
Yeah, and they didn't keep it for themselves personally. Like, these people weren't grifting $50 million and buying ski chalets in the Alps. They were keeping it for the conference and distributing it around. So that money would have gotten distributed around to all 12 teams in the Pac-12.
So who's going to pay this money back among the Pac-12?
Well, I would think
$50 million is a chunk.
I would think that if you're in a TV negotiation right now that started a few months ago, and in October, right around the time that George Kliavkoff probably felt that this was maybe going the way he wanted it to, one of the distribution partners, because they're in this time of doing due diligence and offers, finds out that they've overpaid you $50 million over 6-7 years, then you, if you're that distribution partner, which would be ESPN or Fox, will then say, hey, we're not going to move on anything until we figure out this $50 million issue. And so that would...
If anything, that partner could also say, screw you, we don't want to do business with you anymore.
Yeah, and the other thing about this is that one of the people interviewed in this was the former commissioner, Larry Scott. Now, his knowledge of this is not necessarily available in this press release, but the two executives knew, and you would think that Larry Scott would notice that they had a little bit more money. So,
from one of the Twitter responses, they thought people would just not miss $50 million.
Yeah, I mean, y'all read a lot there, but is that just basically summed up? They got $50 million more than they were supposed to, and rather than saying, hey, you guys gave us too much, they just, funneled it?
About $7 million a year. They were getting more in overpayments, and so
that
instead
totaled
of
50 over the years.
And they knew about it after the first time it happened and didn't say anything and just kept getting the $7 million and then funneled it out through the distribution to the universities.
Yeah, that's not going to go over well. I can't imagine that that's something that, I don't know how much it's a negative as far as, TV negotiations and things like that go. But, I would think whoever was the partner on the other end of that would not be too happy with that and not be thinking too fondly of the Pac-12 at this moment. But, yeah, there's a lot of questions to be answered there. And yeah, that's just a weird story to drop today that was not expecting. I think the story we've been waiting on for the Pac-12 is actually them talking about the TV deal they're supposed to be signing at some point. We kind of touched on that with Dennis Dodd, but yeah, what a bizarre story and what a just stupid thing to do and terrible mistake on the part of those in charge of the Pac-12. I mean, I don't know how to put it without just talking a bunch of trash, because that's just a really dumb move. I don't know how else to say it. That's not very professional, and I don't know how that comes back to hurt them or haunt them, but it's not a good look in any way, shape, or form.
No, it's not, and it could be, just like the Texas-Oklahoma leaving a year early could be, although it appears to be, the reason why their schedule for 2023 has been delayed, and even Mack Rhoades has said that in many ways. From November, when the commissioner said November, to where we are now, which is, of course, January the 20th. Somebody did mention earlier that there's some sort of a deadline on January 31st for schools or conferences to release their schedule because of TV partners and vice versa. It's their conference. Yes, I understand there's TV type, I guess, partners. But it's their conference. You would think the conference can do whatever the hell they want with their right. The reason it's delayed is because Texas and Oklahoma might be leaving a year earlier, and they probably had to go back with a different algorithm.
I mean, there is a point there. The networks have to know what they're going to broadcast.
Sure they do.
I mean, they have to pick the games they're going to want. I mean, if you're Fox or you're ESPN, what Big 12 game you picking? You don't know which ones there are. The
only one you know is going to happen is Texas and Oklahoma.
I mean, okay, so first up gets that one, but after that, I mean, what games are there? You can't say, let's get Baylor, TCU. Are they playing? Probably.
Fox gets Texas OU no matter what, and then after that, it's a crapshoot.
Right, I'm just saying, beyond that game being the no-doubter, all right, so who's up? Who gets the pick of the first game, whatever? I want Baylor, TCU. Are they playing? That's what I'm saying. Are they even playing? You would think that they are, but we don't know that. We don't know of a single game on the schedule. We just assume Texas, Oklahoma will be on there, and rightfully, I bet paychecks that's certainly going to be on the schedule. But beyond that, we don't know. And so to his point or her point, yeah, you would think that there would be something coming sooner, a deadline of some sorts, but I'm not aware of a deadline, but I'm absolutely with you on something needs to break soon, because not only for the sake of fans who want to travel or fans who want to, book their flights and all of that or buy tickets, it's just the network's got to know what they're going to be promoting over the next few months and what they're gearing up for. So hopefully Mack Rhodes is right, and here in 10 days or so, we will get a Big 12 schedule release. He said that he was sticking with Brett Yormark's comments. That alluded to the end of January. Well, it's January 20th, so something you would think has got to give. And as I said the other day, I've been very mum on the whole schedule release. I haven't made a big deal about the fact that we haven't gotten it yet, because others are trickling out this week, and I don't think their fan bases were going absolutely nuts like some of the Big 12 fans are, acting as though that they've been promised. I mean, I get that the dates have been pushed back, but I also think there's been a little bit too much harsh reaction to the fact we don't have the schedule just yet. But if it's not out by the end of January, then, like I said the other day, that will make me wonder, like, hey, what the heck is going on over there that you're needing to delay it a fourth or fifth time, and now we're getting into February and we still don't have a schedule. Given all the times you said it's coming, what could be the hang-up? Well, maybe the hang-up is what we talked about with Dennis Dodd earlier, and maybe that's the fact that maybe this isn't Texas and Oklahoma's last year, or maybe it is. Yeah. And that's what they're trying to negotiate and find out behind the scenes, and that's probably why we haven't seen that schedule yet.
By the way, thanks to RJ Webb. He always includes us in things that he sees that might be of interest to us. An update on John Wilner's tweet, not ESPN or Fox. So now you wonder, where is that then coming from? What other possibilities? I just text Bob Thompson to see if he could give me a little bit of a clearance or a clarity, for I can pass it along to you. We'll see if we can. Let's break.
So,
go ahead.
I do. We got a text on this, and I've been talking to him about it. One of our text line people said that it might have been Learfield, but that doesn't make sense because they don't have a deal with the entire Pac-12, nor do they have deals with all the individual schools. They have some, not all, in the Pac-12. But distributor could also mean like a cable distributor. So DirecTV, which is not with the Pac-12, we know, but Comcast or someone like that.
Okay. All right, let's break here, and we'll try to see what else we could come up with. And that's not the only story today.
It's interesting, though.
It's a very interesting story. I have a tweet. Stuart Mandel put out a note about the number of underclassmen who have declared for the NFL draft for this class, and what the number was this year compared to last year, and it looks as if the numbers are going down. And you wonder, of course, is that NIL attached? That and more. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas Marketplace, just off of I-35 in the southern part of Waco. The Central Texas Marketplace, they have a business. It's a good-looking building, by the way, too. I love the design and the design of outside the building. But inside, it's what you want. An MRI machine that can find out whatever you need. No matter the muscle, no matter the ligament, no matter what part of the body is hurting you or your doctor wants more evidence, they're going to find it. In fact, I've told this story that I have a couple of brothers that have battled prostate cancer in recent years. And so my doctor asked me, hey, let's get a check. Let's just, not only the PSA check and all that, let's get a look at your abdomen to make sure there's not something flaring up inside. I did the MRI. It came back completely clear. It did show that my prostate was slightly enlarged, but that happens. And that was incredibly good news. So even then, it doesn't have to be a torn ACL or a lumbar or possibly rotator cuff. It could be something like what I just mentioned. And here's the best part of it. Not only you get evidence, $497 is the cost every single time, and it could be less. Not $497 and then $1,500, $497 or less. Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff, they're incredible. The Texas specialist, they are great because I've been inside that MRI machine on multiple occasions, and what a tremendous experience it has been at IdealMRI.com.
Kick off 2023 with a bang at the Start Something New sales event. Get 2.9% for 72 months on 2022 Ram 1500 crew cabs on all trim levels. Lone Stars, Laramie, and top-of-the-line Longhorn and Longhorn Limited, or get values up to $3,000 on a Ram 1500 Lone Star crew cab plus 4.9% for 72 months. Pick from the best selection of Ram trucks in Central Texas at Allen Samuels in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments, with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
By the way, we mentioned Jen Witcher, who's a viewer of our show, an incredibly loyal Baylor fan. And I had someone put this in the forums about her. She passed away yesterday at the age of 40 with the C word, cancer. A true fan. This is from Oso Coriel. She was literally driving from San Antonio while going through chemo to make home games. She doesn't have to deal with chemo anymore. Blessings to her. She's doing better things in a better place than we can even imagine right now. Another note from Wade. She was one of the most sweetest, happy human beings I've ever met. That is what you want people to say about you. Jen Witcher, who passed away a viewer of our show yesterday. We mentioned that, but I wanted to add that to the mix as well because those are some powerful comments about her. Now, from Stuart Mandel. We'll have this in a second, Garrett. Let me know it's up. Okay. Stuart Mandel put this up earlier today. The NFL draft, they released everybody that's been cleared earlier today. The NFL sent that out to the media. The early entries, underclassmen and graduates with eligibility remaining, the number in 2022 dropped and 2023 dropped. In fact, 2023 is 50 players less than 2019, 18 less than last year, and that was 28. You see the numbers. NIL?
I'm sure that has something to do with it, especially there were some guys. I mean, I remember thinking in 2019 that, 135 guys, if you're one of those and the first 3 rounds are the best ones to get picked in, well, that's about 100 picks when you get to the end of the 3rd round because of the compensatory picks. So 35 of you, at least, if you discount all the guys who have their eligibility gone, so if all 100 of the best ones were better than all the seniors, then you're at best going to be a 3rd-round pick. But if you're 135 and then you add in all the seniors who are in there, then you're pushing your way on down the line. So your draft slot and your money is going to go down and down and down. Now, look, guaranteed money and a signing bonus and all that is fine, but I would certainly think that if you have a chance to play another year or two and move that up from being a 5th-round pick to being a 2nd-round pick because of your experience and growth and the way that, that your body's going to change the most between age 20 and 24 probably when you really hit that stride. I think people are staying because of NIL.
Yeah, I think there's, a good number. I'd like to see more data, a couple more years worth to really see how it kicks in. But I think that's a small enough sample size to beg the question of if it's having an effect. And it does appear like that could very well be the case. And, yeah, it wouldn't be surprising. There's a lot of great football players at the college level, and there's far fewer at the NFL level. So, if you're somebody who's a 7th-round pick probably in the future, or you can stay in college and make $20,000 and live another year playing for SMU or something, then, yeah, I can absolutely see a lot of guys taking a guaranteed 20 to, play one more year and then, go do whatever they're going to do in the next phase of their life. And maybe they get lucky and maybe they do boost their draft stock and they are a 5th-round pick now all of a sudden. So I don't know. I would be more curious to see a breakdown of what level of player are we talking about. You know what I mean? Like, are there more top level, like 1st round, 2nd round, 3rd round type of guys that are staying? Or is this guys who would be undrafted or are late round? Does that make sense?
Yeah, good question. Chris Vanini, who's from theathletic.com, made this comment. The late round fringe kids that leave early only because they need money for their family can now get money while staying in college.
Exactly.
And that might be the ones who are not. Like Bijan Robinson could have stayed and made as much money this year at Texas as he would make in the NFL. We know that that's a compliment to him and the system. But if you're a guy that may not make it, you may want to wait another year and get $50,000 or $100,000 or $20,000 or whatever it is by staying where you are and also increasing your possibly increasing your draft note.
Well, here's the thing. There are guys. Look, Michael Sam was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Now, taking out everything else we know about Michael Sam after that fact, Michael Sam was a fringe NFL player. He was a guy who was going to be on and off rosters. There's tons of guys like that. But he was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. His overall value, as somebody who can market things, really is in Columbia, Missouri. Like, so, now with NIL, you can stay and build that for the future. I'll use another example. Jason White, Heisman Trophy winner from Oklahoma. Maybe if his knees weren't completely shot by the end of his career, the NFL would have been a much more viable option for him. But ultimately, Jason White's true value was going to be always in Norman, Oklahoma and, the surrounding Sooner world. So now you don't have to make those decisions of being a fringe guy. You can stay there and know that, like, look, I'll give it my go, but, it's harder to make it the lower down the list you get on the NFL draft pick ladder. And if you can make some money and then set yourself up for the future and build your brand out where you're the most valuable, then yeah, you're going to stay now, as opposed to like rolling the dice maybe too early on the NFL because you're a little desperate.
Yeah, I mean, let's see some C.J. Stroud stick around before we start thinking that it's, the college decision suddenly bigger than the NFL.
Yep.
Because I do think that they're probably in those numbers mostly later round guys that we're talking about. Because, still, like we said the other day, you can offer, you can give $6 million or whatever to any named player. Some of the more outlandish things that have been rumored, like with Imaliava or Tennessee, or even with Jaden Rashada, like that's still not NFL money.
Yeah,
it's still not. It's still not rookie first round pick NFL money. It's not that signing bonus that they get. And so I don't think this is the top level guys, but I do think just in general, it's great. It's great that especially some guys who probably don't have bright pro futures are sticking around and getting an opportunity to make a little bit of money. I do think we got to be careful of stretching it now to where it's just commonplace where 27-year-olds are playing college football. You know what I mean? Like that should be a rarity still, and not necessarily. But between the COVID year and all of that, I think we're kind of getting on the other side of that. But it has been a weird couple of years in that regard. But NIL has benefits, and I think for a lot of those players who decided to stick around, clearly they saw those benefits. Because, for example, like with Texas or Texas Tech, and I know there's others out there, but those are the ones that I know for sure that promoted the fact that at Texas, linemen are getting $50K. At Texas Tech, everybody on the roster gets $25K, right?
And walk-ons.
And walk-ons.
And a number of walk-ons.
And I know there's plenty of other programs that have something similar. So like how many of those guys we're going to be making a guaranteed, $50K or $25K playing football the next year. That's great that there's that opportunity and there's that money flow going to a lot of players.
Yeah, and the reason I brought up those two guys was because you can be an award winner, a major award winner in college football.
Who that you think could have been a first-round pick decided to, the kid from Georgia maybe, but the center, I don't think he would have been a first-round pick. Who that we thought or we think or others think is a first-round talent decided to go back for another year and play college football?
The two off the top of my head would be, and I'll say the first two rounds because that's kind of gotten a little wider right now.
All right.
But I would say Jared Verse at Florida State and Blake Corum at Michigan are the two that stick out to me that would have probably been first and second round picks.
I don't know about Blake Corum being that high, but I don't know that.
But maybe a second
wrong
rounder.
on that.
Yeah.
We're talking about Bijan going into the first. So, what are we talking about with Blake Corum?
I would say, the last part of the second for him. So it makes, and then look, it's running backs. Those are the guys who also maybe go earlier because your clock ticks maybe a little bit faster than a lot of guys, based on history.
Deuce Vaughn probably could have made pretty good money in Manhattan next year, but he decided to go to the NFL, and he'll probably be a mid to late rounder. But maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm totally wrong on that. I think I don't know I don't know enough about how certain guys are viewed. So, how was Michael Penix viewed by NFL scouts?
Yeah.
Bo Nix, how is he viewed by NFL scouts? Because those guys are coming back, and so I know they're making NIL money. To what degree, I don't know, but I don't know where they were placed in sort of the bigger picture of the NFL to know if they were turning down massive amounts to stick around in college for another year. I don't know that.
I would think a quarterback might be a little easier too, because you look at, especially a year like this year. So everybody knows the top four, who they're going to be, and it's Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson, however they fall. Those are the four guys that everybody was kind of hot after or that had those things. So if you're anybody else, if you're Bo Nix or Michael Penix, then
Jordan Travis,
you have to look at, am I going to jump over any of those guys this year? No, you're not. So next year, go make your money and then see what happens.
Sam Hartman,
exactly. Sam Hartman, especially, he got his draft valuation back, and he's probably, especially based with the blood clot issue in his hopefully in the rear view for him now, but because he had that, he's looking at a 5th, 6th round pick, and for a quarterback, that means, you're going to hold some water for a while. Not everybody can be Brock Purdy or Tom Brady on the higher end of that, so you're going to be there for a while. And he was playing in an offense that's a slow mesh that no one runs in the NFL. So he needed to go somewhere where he could say, yes, I am good. I can do this in a system that's an NFL, more like the NFL systems that they run. And also, Wake Forest doesn't have as much NIL money as Notre Dame does, and so he went to cash in while he could.
One other note, and I hate to bring sad news into it. It's a great conversation on the NIL. Good tweet from Stuart Mandel and responses from others. Former Temple football player, and this is yet another story that we've seen too much. Jared Alwan. He played for Matt Rule at Temple. He was a GA at Baylor. Passed away at the age of 29 yesterday. And this picture with
P.J. Walker.
P.J. Walker is up on Twitter. Matt Rule is in Texas, as are, as I mentioned yesterday, dozens and hundreds probably of coaches. And he was going to join us yesterday. And when I he never got a hold of him late in the day. He just told me there was no way he could come on because of what Jared meant to him and so many people that knew him. So a horrible story, but not only a Temple football player, but also as a GA at Baylor University. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, is next on 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. I put a bone-in ribeye that was in the freezer. I put it inside the refrigerator earlier today, and then hopefully tomorrow night I get a chance to grill it, enjoy it, eat it, and it will be delicious. The butcher shop at Waco Custom Marketplace with pork, poultry, beef, and also seafood. They have a lobster tail, a live lobster tank. There's Norwegian salmon fillets that are absolutely mouth-watering delicious. The pork and the poultry also, you get what you want. They have whole chickens, or you can get, they have chicken breasts that are huge for you if you want to grill a chicken breast or cut it up and put it into some sort of a casserole, whatever you want to do there. And then, of course, the meat market with beef, from hamburger to bacon to whatever you need. And, by the way, bacon, pork as well. But you want steaks, they will cut them the way you want, and they cut them for me the way I love them, about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches thick for the bone-in ribeyes, and that's what I'll cook tomorrow. The bakery is also full service. Waco Custom Marketplace until 6 o'clock tonight, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Richard Carr has the new 2023 truck or SUV you want in stock today. The versatile GMC Terrain is waiting for you. Qualified buyers get 3.9% financing and a $750 loyalty rebate for eligible GMC owners. Qualified buyers get 2.9% financing on most new 2023 GMC Sierra 1500s in stock, or 3.9% on all 2023 Buick Envision, Encore, and Enclave SUVs in stock. Call now, get here now, or log on to get all the details and to drive home your new GMC or Buick today.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you. Car's price right, day and night. At Richard Carr in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. At Richard Carr in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Carr in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Carr in Waco, Texas.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
one size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one size fits all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs. Knowing you, that's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943. Read John's work at GallerySports.com and SportsRadio610.com.
He is a rock star. John McClain joins us normally on Tuesdays, but this week and the next couple of weeks on Fridays. We're glad to have him. John, did I see a note where there is any smoke to the NFL looking at conference championship games being neutral because of what might be with Buffalo and Kansas City?
Mike Florio floated that today on Pro Football Talk, and it's been kicked around off and on for years. And then the league, the point is, if you have the best record in your conference, and you should have something that is worth winning over an 18-week, 17-game season, besides just getting a bye week. And so I think it would be ridiculous to play it at a neutral site between one team that had a better record than the other. I don't even think they should have changed it this year. They changed a rule during the season, which is rare, and they should have just kept it. The team with the best winning percentage hosted the game, but they were afraid Buffalo was going to have to go on the road, and they didn't want to appear callous, so they worked this out. And I don't think the owners, they have to approve these kind of things, and I do not think they would approve it.
John, what was your biggest surprise of the playoff weekend?
Paul, I got to believe when the Jaguars were getting stomped 27-0, that I thought, sure, well, Trevor Lawrence bit the bit in his first big game. And when they were able to come back with a touchdown at the end of the first half, and then Trevor Lawrence was outstanding in the second, it was a tremendous job of the Jaguars. But, boy, when you overcome that kind of deficit, a lot of the blame goes to the other team. And one reason Joe Lombardi, the offensive coordinator of the Chargers, was fired, he didn't run the ball. You need to run the ball when you got that kind of lead. He's got Austin Eckler, a scoring machine, a touchdown machine. They only ran, I think, 8 times in the second half, which is ridiculous. I also thought it was very interesting, 5 teams that lost fired coordinators. I can't remember the last time that's happened, but I guess they needed scapegoats. But for the Jaguars to come back, for Doug Peterson to show some huge footballs on a couple of decisions that worked, that's the one that surprised me the most.
John, you mentioned the coordinators there. What were your thoughts on, especially after the ugly showing and just a rough year overall for the Buccaneers, Byron Leftwich being let go?
This week, Ben Johnson, the one-year coordinator of the Lions, was a hot young coach as far as head coaching jobs, and he did 2 or 3 interviews, and then he said he needed more seasoning. Goes back to Detroit, and they give him a big new contract. D'Amico Ryans, the defense coordinator for 49ers, did that last year. Minnesota wanted him to come back for a second interview. He said, I think I need more seasoning. Now, it's worked out great for D'Amico. He's interviewing with the Texans today. 2 other teams want him. Everybody assumes he's going to be named a head coach, got the best defense in the league. He was a tremendous player for 10, 11 years. And I wrote that Ben Johnson better hope this decision turns out like D'Amico Ryans and not Byron Leftwich. Over the last 2 years, Byron Leftwich is talked about as a hot commodity for a head coaching job. Now he's out of work. And he'll get another coordinator's job, but he didn't just get to be a bad coach. It wasn't his fault they couldn't run. And that's the way the NFL works. Unfortunately, some guys are hot, and boy, when the iron's hot, you better strike because it can turn around in a hurry, as Byron Leftwich has found out the hard way.
John, we were talking about Byron Leftwich yesterday in Lamar Jackson and his contract situation and the fact that the Ravens have an open thing. If I were the Ravens, I'd snatch up Byron Leftwich and tell Lamar Jackson, here's our guy. Our offense is going to be a lot better. Come sign this deal.
Well, the problem is Leftwich has coached a pocket quarterback that is as far opposite of Lamar Jackson as you can get. And I would, if I'm Baltimore, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get on the phone, probably a landline, and I'm going to call Thailand on whatever remote island Cliff Kingsbury's on with his girlfriend licking his wounds from getting fired. And I'm going to say, Cliff, you coach Johnny Manziel. He ran all over the place. You coach Case Keenum. You coach Patrick Mahomes, who runs all over the place. He's coached Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. He's had a lot of he's the one I'd like the Texans to hire as offensive coordinator if they get Bryce Young, because he's coached mobile quarterbacks, coaches that can run. That's the guy I think would do a tremendous job coaching Lamar Jackson. And I would think that I don't think for a minute Lamar Jackson's going anywhere. They can franchise him for 2 years. And that'd be a primo job for a great organization and a great coach in John Harbaugh I'd want to work for. I'd tell my agent, first thing, call John Harbaugh.
Joe, just what did you think of the Bucs season in general? And I know we've already begun the whole, and I've already seen the groans about how for the next few months we're going to have to hear the will they, won't they with, Brady and probably Aaron Rodgers. But, just removed from winning a Super Bowl and running it back and for it to end the way that it did, was that the end, you think, for Tom Brady? And what do you just feel like about the Bucs moving forward?
He hasn't acted like he wanted to retire, Craig. In the past, he kept talking about his wife, his family. Well, now he doesn't have the wife. He's got a family. And he threw a record number of passes and completions this season. Their running game was awful. Their defense wasn't as good. They had injuries at wide receiver early, and he lost 3 starting offensive linemen and his coach, Bruce Arians. So they think that he's gone, and it makes sense to go to Las Vegas. They need a quarterback. His coach is Josh McDaniels, where he won Super Bowls with. They're really close. The other thing that's intriguing, last year, Brady and Sean Payton were going to Miami, and then Brian Flores filed his lawsuit. And then Brian Flores included in that lawsuit some stuff that got the owner, Stephen Ross, in a lot of trouble, so they had to sacrifice draft choices, forfeit them, including their first-round pick. Well, if Peyton and Brady want to get together, they go to Carolina. Carolina's got Sam Darnold at its quarterback. They need a head coach. It seems like natural. Now, the problem is if the Saints let that happen and then they kick the Saints' butts, how stupid are the Saints? The Saints have told teams it'll cost a first-round pick to get Sean Payton, mid to low level. But if it's the Panthers in our division, it's going to cost more. It doesn't matter what they give up. The Panthers automatically would be favored to win that division. I think this time next year, Todd Bowles will be fired for the second time at Tampa. I think Dennis Allen will be fired for the second time at New Orleans. And Carolina, if it gets Peyton and a quarterback, they'll dominate the division.
John, the The Cowboys and 49ers, it's the evening game. The numbers are going to be a monster. The NFL numbers are going to be a monster anyway. When I think, or when I ask you, what memory do you have of Cowboys and 49ers? Is it Dwight Clark? Is it that one with Montana, or is it maybe some other game?
Now, old listeners are going to understand this. The 49ers and Cowboys played in the playoffs a bunch in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the most that Tony French had the greatest onside kick in history. The 49ers had him down. I think Dick Nolan was the coach. And he went up to do an onside kick. He planted his left foot on the right side of the ball and then used a soccer move to bring his right leg behind his left calf and had the onside kick to the left side. And they recovered and saw back through a touchdown pass, and they won. And so that's the thing that I remember most. Now, I covered the catch. I was standing in the back of the end zone, and I have seen that a million times. And it was cold. Everybody's wearing long coats and hats, and I'd stop action in that thing a million times, and I can't find me. But I was standing there right behind Dwight Clark when he caught it. Even if I wouldn't recognize me because it's like 140 pounds ago. And so nobody believes me that I was standing back there. But, the worm turned then. The 49ers became dominant. The Cowboys, who had been dominant, succeeded the power to them. They played 9 times. That's tied for the most in history. 49ers won the last 2 playoff games. Cowboys won the last 3 regular season games. And what's interesting to me is the Cowboys have a defense and a pass rush that can really make Brock Purdy's day miserable if indeed they can get the Niners in a situation where they can't run the ball. Can't run Mitchell, McCaffrey, or Samuel because they have to throw. They got the best pass rush in the NFL. They were number 2 in sacks to Philadelphia. I was asked this week on one of my shows if you had to pick an upset this weekend, what would it be? I said, well, most people are picking the Giants over the Eagles. I would pick the Cowboys over the Niners for this reason. Now, I picked San Francisco to win it, but if I had to pick an upset, that would be, I can't wait for it because it rekindles a lot of good memories.
John, how big was, particularly for Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, both in contract years, and the Giants, that now the Giants' problem is how do we negotiate with these guys as opposed to how do we replace them, that not only did Saquon make it through the year healthy and was excellent, but Daniel Jones was pretty darn good as well.
One of the strengths of Brian Daboll when he was at Buffalo, he helped Josh Allen go from being a turnover machine where he was able to protect the ball and still be great. He leaves, and Josh Allen's a turnover machine again. He had 3 over the weekend, 2 interceptions, a fumble return for a touchdown. He plays like that against Cincinnati. Bengals are going to upset him. And so now he's gone. Now, Mike Kafka, who came there as a first-year coordinator after being a quarterback coach for Andy Reid for a long time, he's coaching him too. And Daniel Jones got away with a great game plan in that game because he ran the ball a lot. It was design runs. And everybody's expecting Saquon Barkley, and he's doing an RPO, and he's faking the run to Barkley, and everybody thinks it's going to be a pass. Then he cuts it upfield and runs. That's not going to catch the Eagles off guard. So the Eagles are going to game plan for him to be a significant part of the running game. And, of course, they hope to shut that down and force Jones to pass. But they've done a great job of coaching him. I don't think the Giants will win, but I didn't think they beat the Vikings either. And if Kirk Cousins hadn't gone brain dead on the last Minnesota play of the season, they might have been able to overcome the Giants.
We mentioned this earlier, John McClain, again, Hall of Fame columnist, GallerySports.com. Stuart Mandel put this out earlier today about the NFL draft and underclassmen. The number of underclassmen who entered the draft this year was 82. It was 100 last year. Prior to the NIL going into effect in July of 2021, it was like 128, 135, 115. Are you noticing that it is changing because some of those late fringe round picks or others make more money staying in college?
That's what the colleges sold them. Now, a lot of people panicked especially in Houston, that C.J. Stroud wasn't going to come out. And I wrote a column for Gallery Sports saying that's preposterous. He has a chance to be the first pick. His signing bonus would be almost $25 million. That's not counting his base salary and his endorsements and his marketing deals. How stupid would it be to take NILs, even if it was $10 million, to go back to college and risk being injured? And then next year he might be the fifth best quarterback. So he was a drama queen. He waited until the last minute. And why they were worried in Houston is they're afraid, well, if there's not two top quarterbacks, somebody could get Bryce Young away from the Texans. And I'm like, cool your jets. Use some common sense. But you're right, David. That's a great observation. I've seen a lot of players go back who would have been drafted at the bottom of the first round or second round, and they've stayed in school, number one, because of NILs, but also I think that they've been convinced by somebody, maybe agents, maybe family, that they got a chance to enhance their draft position if they stayed in school another year.
I did see your note. Randy Galloway, a great friend of ours. We love him to death. 80th birthday today. You and Randy are part of that class, the new media class in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. You mentioned about that you didn't want to be the target of one of his columns, right?
I said everybody loved Randy unless you were the target of one of his columns, not me, but just people that he wrote about. Loved his writing, loved his opinions, and unless he was writing about you. And my dad used to listen to Randy on the radio, especially blasting Jerry Jones, because my dad loved Tom Landry. And my dad would call me when I was covering the Oilers and say, hey, listen to what Randy said and wrote today. I said, Daddy, I got a job. Unlike you, I got better things to do, sit around, read, and listen to Randy Galloway. And then he'd go, oh. I said, well, what did Randy say? He'd tell me. And I go, oh, yeah, that's great, because I mean, that's what my dad wanted to hear.
All right, and then you want to mention, unfortunately, Randy Riggs died.
David, is a bittersweet day today. Randy Riggs, who covered college, high school, Oilers, pro sports for the American Statesman for till he was retired at 61. He died after a 2-year battle with cancer. And then, of course, Randy's celebrating his 80th. So I called it bittersweet in a tweet, and condolences to Randy and his family and friends and the many fans as he had as a sports writer. We had some great times together covering the Oilers, especially at training camp in San Marcos and San Antonio.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend, sir.
Thank you, guys. Stick on.
That's John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, GallerySports.com, Houston 610, and on a lot of radio stations with cuts like we do, with segments like that throughout the country.
Is Galloway the first person to turn 80 and then finally reach the age he always was in his heart? Like, I say this lovingly because but Randy has always seemed to me to be at least a little part of him is an 80-year-old guy. Although there's some of the conflict.
An 80-year-old guy who's happy and content, or an 80-year-old grumpy old man?
I mean, there's that's the duality of Randy. It's like if you know, he's he really does have he has a good time whatever he's doing. He knows when to be serious, but when the way he reacts to most things and controversies, or the way he describes things, it does feel like even when he was 50, there was an 80-year-old guy in there going, listen.
For sure. I agree. We've all met him. We've all been with him. We've all gone out and enjoyed time with him. And he's been on this show, a wonderful, an incredible guy in Randy Galloway. Congratulations on turning 80. When we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5 on Jaden Rashada. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, the Start Something New sales event going on right now for 2023 in January. Get 2.9% for 72 months on a 2022 Ram 1500 crew cabs on all the trim levels. Lone Stars, Laramie, and top-of-the-line Longhorn and Longhorn Limited. Or get values of up to $3,000 on a Ram 1500 Lone Star crew cab, plus 4.9% for 72 months, picked from the best selection of Ram trucks in Central Texas at Alan Samuels in Waco. Kick off the same the Start Something New sales event. Get $2,500 in total values, 1.9% for 72 months on all the new Jeep 2023 Grand Cherokee Limiteds. That's right, 1.9% for 72 months, plus rebates available across their entire inventory. It's the Start Something New sales event at Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340. General Manager is Ted Teague. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Kick off the new year at the Start Something New sales event. Get up to $2,500 in total values and 1.9% for 72 months on the new 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited with second and third row seating options. The Start Something New sales event is happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozers and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozers. Boozers Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:45. Or is it 5:55? Either way, it's the Top 5.
Top 5 Jaden Rashada landing spots. And this is going to be, I mean, it's different. There's a lot of people who come off this list now that wouldn't get because they didn't have Jaden Rashada. They've made other deals. I'm sure their collectives have made NIL deals. They're not going to go in for another quarterback, especially if that quarterback was on the level of, say, Jaden Rashada. He's top 15 at the position. I think he's ranked 7th, 4th to 7th by most of the recruiting services. So kind of an interesting thing. Now, look, there are some guys that are beneath, that in the rankings that if Jaden Rashada called the coach, and even though he might have signed a guy who's a 3-star, he'll sign Jaden Rashada in a second if he's got a scholarship for him, and they can work out the deal. But so far, based on what it looks like his past has been, what still is open, this is what I gathered from all of the recruiting services out there and what they think on Jaden Rashada. So number 5 would be Penn State. Have not signed a quarterback in this class yet. They have interest in one who's a 3-star kid from I believe he's from Bradenton, Florida, maybe somewhere around Sarasota. But he is a Florida kid. Also, the Gators are now heavier in on this kid because their quarterback situation is not. This would be the least likely, but Penn State could get in on this. I just don't think it's going to them, but this is a potential fit for Jaden Rashada. And maybe one of the only teams in the Big Ten that he got even a little bit down the road with.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a lot of it's going to depend on what he feels like he's supposed to be doing right away or not. I mean, is he going to sit back and feel okay about redshirting? And I feel silly to even think that power's in his control, but based on what we've seen at this point, I mean, can't rule anything out. Can't rule out that, he'll be expecting one thing or another, and I'm not placing the blame on him, but the people around him clearly have had their hands in the cookie jar. And so, it's bizarre that I guess it's not bizarre actually that we're in this spot with Jaden Rashada, but it's going to be fascinating to see, kind of how he's re-recruited. But I mean, Drew Aller's the guy there for the time being and for the foreseeable future. But certainly they could always use another talent. I do think Aller's the guy. But Penn State would be an interesting fit for him.
Number 3, and this one's out of the blue. People may not think this, but Cal. Cal was on his list before. He's from the area. Apparently liked it. So they could get back in this. Now, when it comes to NIL and the team being good around him and everything else, I can't make that argument for Cal right now because I don't really know the direction that Justin Wilcox has that program pointed. So this would be a boon for them. But Cal is on this list. It doesn't make a lot of sense. When I sent it to Jack, sent back a text, Cal, really? I was like, yeah. I mean, when I started reading it, I was like, that doesn't make any sense compared to everyone else who's recruited this kid based on their on-the-field accomplishments, even if it's, not in the immediate past. It's not so far back that you really have to think about it. But Cal's on his list.
I mean, I feel like anytime Cal's brought up now, we have to have this caveat about them, like whether they care or not and all of that, but as far as their quarterback room goes, just purely simply, besides all that, their quarterback room is pretty much empty at this point. I mean, Plummer left. They had another quarterback transfer, so I don't even know what their depth chart looks like at this point.
They got Sam Jackson from TCU.
Okay. But I didn't remember that one. But, okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. But still, that's not somebody that you go oh, well, he's the starting quarterback for them. I mean, hardly. So all due respect, that is. But, it's not somebody that you just picked up and you're like, oh, that's the guaranteed guy. So, I mean, that would make sense as a place that he could probably see the field if he's as advertised, earlier than most others.
Now, this place to me, I think makes the most sense overall with everything, with his family, with everything else.
Spavital's at Cal now, too.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. Spav's at Cal. Number 3, Arizona State. His father went to Arizona State. Kenny Dillingham is there. Dillingham recruited him while he was in Oregon, while Arizona State was not in the water in his early recruitment because he committed, essentially back in November. They've since, hired Kenny Dillingham, and he's there. And again, he's a legacy there. So it would make sense that the Sun Devils get in on this, and don't think Kenny Dillingham isn't trying and going all over the greater PHX area, making sure he's got some NIL money to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, they do have, Jaden Daniels coming back, and they've got the transfer from BYU as well.
No, it's Drew Pine's there. Jay Daniels at LSU. But, yeah, Drew Pine's there, and then Jacob Conover. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Conover's who I'm thinking of, and thank you on the Drew Pine thing. Duh.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I guess Kenny Dillingham's, like you said, in search of whatever talent he can find. And so if he feels like he can get another young arm in there and somebody that's got some star power to him, then sure. Yeah, I mean, that's a program that I think is going to be very exciting to watch. He already seems like he's brought some energy there. Obviously knows the area, former player, all that stuff everybody knows. But, that'll be a fun team to kind of see how he builds that up, because that is an attractive spot if you do it the right way. But it's kind of one that, because of Herm Edwards, we just sort of stopped caring about there for a couple of years,
And then Todd Graham before. It's just
it's just not a cool school.
Yeah, they are not reaching their potential as far as how cool. Like, it's one of the coolest things about Phoenix, Arizona State, if they're hot, right? If they're doing well, it could be one of the coolest things about it, but they have not lived up to that. Number 2, Miami. While I do think that there's probably some in the Miami circle that are out of this, they signed a 3-star quarterback, to have that. But if Jaden Rashada walked back through and said, how about that deal you gave me before? If that was still on the table, believe me, Mario Cristobal's taking it.
Yeah, I mean, I would be curious to hear that conversation.
Yeah.
I would love to hear that conversation if, in fact, that was the route that they returned to. But, I mean, Miami has shown that they'll throw some skin in the NIL game, and they're, obviously in search of, like everybody else, as much talent as they can possibly compile. They clearly wanted him badly to begin with, and if there still is a little bit of a fire there, I just wonder, like, how much damage was done with the whole process to Florida.
Yeah.
Like, that's my question. But I'm sure, like, if they were ensured that they could land him there, you can forgive and forget. It is college football after all. I mean, we've talked about stories this week alone of, like, you never say never, and you never, have these burned bridges. So, yeah, I would imagine that bridge isn't burned at all, and they'd welcome him with open arms. But it was a wild recruitment to begin with.
I would think that he will have, in some cases, there will be some places that will be a red flag for him.
I think so,
like an injury and in this, but only because there just are some coaches, even if the young man is a tremendous young man, just don't want to deal with the drama.
So, see if you can help me describe this. So, Florida and Miami don't play each other every year. They'll do like a home and home, and then it'll be 8 years or a decade before they have the home and home come back again.
Were you old enough to remember when Florida basically said, we don't want to play you anymore?
Yeah, exactly. So, Florida and Miami have a strange rivalry. It's not like Florida and Florida State, intense rivals. Miami and Florida State, intense rivals. Florida and Miami are rivals, but Florida won't play Miami for a varying degree of reasons, mostly because when they started this, they didn't want to get their ass kicked by them. Because
continue to get there.
Yeah, because that's what Miami was doing to everybody. And then Florida got better and then started to maybe open those doors, and where they were national championship contenders and winners. And then Miami was like, well, no, you told us no back then. How you're not going to get to draft off of us now. And so then it got in this little tense thing. But they're not rivals who play each other all the time, but they are schools who have no respect or like for one another in any regard, which means that if you leave one and go to the other, the people who might be giving that money might be like,
you mean like McCullough going to Kansas?
Yeah, kind of like, look, double birds to you.
Yeah, or Tyrese Hunter going to Texas, that kind of, yeah.
And number 1, Washington. They appear to be the leader in the clubhouse for Jaden Rashada right now. And with Michael Penix graduating, look, this is a nice little, if he goes up there just football-wise, outside of all the other stuff we know about Jaden Rashada, if you're Washington and can sit this kid behind Michael Penix next year and have him learn and get a couple reps here and there and grow into the position, I think that's a win for Kalen DeBoer. But I think Washington's the leader right now. But as we see with Jaden Rashada's recruitment, it's not just all about the one thing.
Yeah.
Is this the new Tate Martell? That's what I'm curious to know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
somebody
really
made
what I'm
that
wondering.
comment about Eric Gilbert, the tight end going to Nebraska, that he might be as that position.
Well, I mean, I said the other day with the Eric Gilbert thing that, like, that was as much of like, wow, on the part of Nebraska landing him because of what was the case 2 years ago versus what like we saw recently. Because, if you're going off recently, then yeah, it's been very with Eric Gilbert for various reasons. But yeah, I mean, on paper, that's a good get. And I think that's one that, like, the recruitniks, they celebrate. They're like, oh, Eric Gilbert. And you know, Jaden Rashada, we haven't seen, like, he might be an absolute superstar. I have no idea. But this has as much of a setup to be a Tate Martell as it does to be a Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean? Like, so we're at a fork in the road, and he's about to take whatever direction he's going to take. And I will be sitting here and you know, a happy party to see how all that unfolds, man. But, man, you really have to wonder all the press that he's already received before even making a signing with I guess he signed with Miami technically, right? So before ever even arriving on a campus, yeah, this could go great. This could go bad. This could be a 30 for 30, one way or the other. That's for sure. And it probably will be, because this is the first big NIL case that we all knew was coming at some point or another, where somebody promised something and it didn't get delivered, or there's, you know, whatever. That's Jaden Rashada. That's what he's going to be known for from here on out, as well as being a top recruit until he does something one way or the other, and that'll be amazing to see.
By the way, Paxton, I told him if he got any of the 5 in order right, that I would give him a sleeve of the golf balls he likes to hit. He hits noodles, all right? Those are a heck of a golf ball, and a couple others do as well. He had Oklahoma State, Nebraska, South Carolina, Kentucky, and Tech. He was 0 for 5. I don't know him any golf ball. And I mean, I did that before you started talking. He gave his top 5. And then I said something about, now I'm hungry for ramen noodles. TJ Scott goes, what? I would never admit that. I lived in Japan for 4 years, so I know how to doctor up some ramen noodles. Believe me,
look,
it's pretty
now
good.
it's a thing that you can get. I mean, you just go to a ramen place and get fancy ramen, too.
Places, yeah, I love ramen noodles, and you could put all sorts of. Jacob Wilson and Jack McKenzie, thank you, Jack, doing what he could do with Garrett, trying to get us back after a little bit of a glitch from whatever, and then the Amber Alert, so hopefully that story works out.
We've had a lot of those here lately. I don't know that y'all have noticed that. There's been a few of those this week, and just sad that anytime you hear that go off, so hope that works out well for those involved.
Hey, Rod Webb, thanks for giving us an alert on that Pac-12 story. We appreciate you. All of you in the text line department, the chat room, blowing up again today. Our great sponsors, we appreciate you. For Paul Catalina, for Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Have an incredibly good weekend. We'll see you Monday at 3. This is 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while